Use headphones for a better experience.
We've all been there, sharing an elevator ride with a stranger. It's awkward, uncomfortable, but harmless, right? That's what I thought too, until the day I got trapped in an elevator with someone who wasn't what they seemed. Those 27 minutes felt like a lifetime, and they taught me a chilling lesson about trust, survival, and paying attention to the little things we often ignore. I was working late at the office, the kind of night where the quiet hum of the fluorescent lights feels like a soundtrack to your exhaustion. It was nearing midnight when I finally packed up to leave. The building was eerily empty, with only the occasional echo of a cleaning crew somewhere on the upper floors. I pressed the button for the elevator and waited, scrolling through my phone to distract myself. When the doors opened, a man in a maintenance uniform was already inside. He was tall, mid-40s, with a clipboard in one hand and a toolbox at his feet. "Going down?" he asked, smiling politely. The ride started normally enough. I pressed the button for the lobby, and we descended in silence. But just as we passed the 10th floor, the elevator jolted violently and came to a sudden stop. The lights flickered, leaving us bathed in a dim, emergency glow. "Looks like a power issue," the man said, crouching down to open his toolbox. I wasn't too worried at first. Elevators get stuck all the time, right? But then, as I tried to call for help, I realized there was no signal. The man worked on the control panel, his movements slow and deliberate. I tried to make small talk to ease the tension. "Do you work here often?" I asked. He glanced at me, his smile slightly off. "Oh, I've been around," he said. Something about his tone made me uneasy. His uniform looked authentic, but there were small details that didn't add up. The name patch on his chest was frayed, as if it had been sewn and resewn multiple times. His toolbox was clean, almost too clean, like it had never been used. Minutes turned into what felt like hours. He kept fiddling with the controls, but the elevator didn't budge. That's when I noticed something chilling. The man wasn't sweating or showing any sign of frustration, unlike me. I decided to test him. "Maybe we should call building security?" I suggested. His response was calm but unnerving. "No need for that. I've got it under control." But he wasn't fixing the elevator. He was stalling. My heart started racing. I tried to stay calm, but the confined space felt like it was closing in. "You're not really a maintenance worker, are you?" I finally asked, my voice trembling. He looked up, his expression shifting from polite to something darker. "Why would you say that?" I backed into the corner of the elevator, my mind racing. "Who are you?" I demanded. He didn't answer. Instead, he stood up slowly, his imposing figure towering over me. "You ask too many questions," he said, his smile returning, but this time it was cold and menacing. Desperate, I began pressing every button on the control panel, hoping to trigger some kind of alarm. He didn't stop me. In fact, he seemed to enjoy watching me panic. "You're not getting out of here," he said, leaning against the wall. But then I remembered the emergency hatch at the top of the elevator. I had seen it in movies and TV shows, and I prayed it wasn't just a myth. Keeping my movements subtle, I reached for my bag and pulled out a small pocket knife I always carried. As he approached me, I jabbed the knife toward him, just enough to make him step back. Using the moment of hesitation, I climbed onto the railing and pushed against the emergency hatch. To my relief, it opened. He grabbed my ankle, his grip iron tight, but adrenaline surged through me. I kicked as hard as I could, breaking free and pulling myself up into the shaft. The space was narrow and dark, but I kept climbing, desperate to put as much distance as possible between us. Below, I could hear him yelling, his voice echoing through the elevator shaft. After what felt like an eternity, I reached another floor and found an access door. I banged on it with all my strength until someone opened it. Security pulled me out, confused and alarmed. I told them everything, but when they pried open the elevator doors, the man was gone. They searched the building, but there was no trace of him. Later, they found out that no maintenance worker had been scheduled for that night. For weeks, I couldn't shake the experience. Who was he? What did he want? And how many times had he done this before? The incident left me hyper-aware of my surroundings, especially in places where I felt safe. The scariest part of my story isn't what happened in the elevator. It's how easily I could have ignored the warning signs. In a world where we rush through life, distracted by our phones and routines, it's easy to overlook the little details that don't add up. Pay attention. Trust your instincts. Because sometimes the difference between life and death is noticing that the stranger next to you doesn't belong.
Don't miss out on the scares. Go subscribe to the channel for terrifying stories, legend breakdowns, and more. Bell turn on notifications and experience horror like never before.